Welcome back, gang. It's Deltia from deltiasgaming.com. Look, Throne and Liberty has been out now for a little bit, and you're like me, a beginner, probably going to make a bunch of mistakes. I've made them all, and I want to share with you 10 to avoid to make your life easier as you work through the campaign, the story, and hit level 50 and beyond. Timestamps are below, as well as important links. Hit that like, subscribe if you got something out of this video, and let's get started. The first tip to give you to avoid is basically leveling bottlenecks. When you're doing the main story campaign, you're going to be 1 or 2 levels shy from taking the next step and doing the main story. The main story campaign is where you get most of your experience and you just fly through levels. And then all of a sudden, boom, you hit a wall and you don't know where to go, what to do. Let me tell you what to do. The first thing to do to get a level or 2 is contracts. You're going to get these contracts that you can do daily and they reset. You want to be very careful with the contracts and not just spam them, not just take a bunch of specific ones. But these contract boards you get very early in the game and you can start doing them. Now, if you don't know where to go or what to do, you can hit this N key and it pops up this manage content. Left to right, it gives you different columns and different tabs. So Adventure Codex, Exploration, and Resistance contracts if you already have some assigned. And that tells you if you have any scrolls. I'll get to contracts more in detail, but hitting the N key on PC will give you an idea of content that you can still do. Now, if you hit the escape key, a couple other things that you can do, these secret dungeons. This is a solo arena. It gives you a decent amount of experience just for completing it. And some of these fights are 15, 30 seconds, maybe a minute. So as you progress, they're level determined. Once you hit that specific level, make sure to complete them. Very simple, very easy. Co-op dungeons are a little bit more complex. So you get one at level 20, 30, and then 40. This one in particular has a poison mechanic where the tank has to get in front of someone or someone else does to avoid a kill. But these can give you a bit of experience, and they also have blue gear that drops from, so these are pretty useful to do as well. Now, if you're a solo player, what you're going to do is hit this codex and you have adventure. This is just the campaign or the main story, right? Go to exploration and there is tons and tons of rewards in here for every little zone. Moreover, you can actually look here in the specific rewards as you progress this, and clicking on some of the items will tell you exactly where to go. So if you're around this level and you look at the Monolith Wasteland and you come to your exploration part of your journal, it will give you different things that you can do with a lot of juicy experience as you progress. Also, you can get this Morph Guardian by completing this and 37k experience. So you click on this and it tells you where to go. There's some NPC here or some activity that we have to do. You can pin on your map and go there. So when you get bottlenecked, again, number 1, look at the contracts to do. Go to your codex, especially the exploration, since you're not going to have any main story. Do the co-op dungeons if you're okay with PvE, and do the tower if you're solo and have a good PvE build. There's also open world dungeon here, this Abyss. So you can come here and complete some of the contracts and just kill some of the critters to get experience. So it's worth coming up here and at least unlocking this way shrine if you haven't completed this daily. Another good opportunity to get a bunch of XP to get you past that level, open up the campaign, and keep moving. And then last tip, I don't know, I've said last tip a couple times, but if you go up here to schedule, you'll have all these different things going on in individual zones. You can see I haven't discovered this thing yet, but you can see this way shrine I have. You click on it, it'll tell you if something's active. Now, these are pretty good to do, these active events, and they give great rewards just depending on when they are available. So be aware of the time, what you're working through, and progressing. So for gear, you're going to start out with commons or just whites, working to greens and to blues. Your number 1 priority to avoid is not freaking out about your gear overall, but get something on your slots and then working to green. Specifically, your cloak and accessories. You're not going to have them equipped by default, so these are your number 1 priorities. When you unlock contracts, I think around level 12 or so, you're going to come here to this area, Starlight Observatory. And these specific contracts have a lithograph, which is the crafting component necessary to make a green accessory. This is a really good way to fill in those missing accessories if you haven't got one, just by doing the first couple chapters. Now, another tip is you want to max out your greens before transferring to blue. So when we say max out, that means level 6 on a green. And then when you go into transferring it, it will be a level 3 as a blue. This will save you tons of materials. Okay, since my explanation is clunky and you're probably confused by what I said, what this means is you're going to take this boot that's a green and max it all the way to 6 if we can. Now that it's maxed out at 6, it doesn't go any higher at green quality, right? So we want to transfer. So we have a blue that's going to be really good, but it's not going to be max amount stats. So you put the blue here and you transfer it, and by default, it will be a 3. Why this is relevant is it's going to be very easy to get green drops to upgrade gear. It's going to be harder to get blue ones. So it just saves you a lot of materials and a lot of pain to quickly get that boost. And then once it's a 3 blue upgrade quality material, it'll be better than your previous green. So when you look at your gear, you want to prioritize unlocking the cloaks, the accessories, then upgrading your weapons first. This makes the biggest impact, in my opinion, from when you're playing. So getting that green, getting that maxed out on the quality. And then starting on the individual armor pieces, you can do a mix of like 1 or 2 on this spot, 1 or 2 on this spot. When you get a blue for the first time, you want to make sure that when you transfer, this one is 6, so it can be 3. Same thing if you get a purple drop, all the way blues to 9, and so on. So in order to get greens, if you're not aware, you're going to be getting the green lithographs as you play the chapters. And then later, when you get to later chapters, the final reward is going to be a blue. So don't freak out about min-maxing your gear as you're leveling and progressing. You're going to basically get a set of greens pretty easily just by organically playing. And then you're going to be able to convert those greens into blues. And then once you reach max level, you'll start working on the purples and more of the rare items. Okay, another mistake you're going to make is basically selecting the right contract. So contract, the user interface looks a little bit odd. What you want to pay attention to is the rewards, especially as you're progressing. These material selection chests are nice because you can pick the individual crafting component that you want. So if you get 4 of them, that means you can make a bow with mist wood and so on. But you'll see the level. That's important when you're leveling and reaching 50. And you'll see the content, which is killing stuff versus doing some other goofy mining or whatnot. Down here, you have contract rights and you have current contracts. So you're going to have a limited amount that you can do per day. This means you only want to take and progress and make sure that you complete them once per day, so you don't let them go to waste. And also you're not taking and accepting garbage ones or completing ones that are sub below your level or something that you don't specifically need, because you're going to max out those contract rights. You're not going to be able to get more. And then when you hit the bottleneck for leveling, you're going to be stuck. So accept the right contracts. You can also get contracts via consuming scrolls that you get as well. So you can see this one has a little scroll icon by it, and it's the goofy level, but there's multiple ways to get these contracts. So if you have these scrolls in your inventory, feel free to pop those if you need a couple extra contracts to complete, and or hold them till you're ready to go for the next wave of contracts. But that's what those scrolls in your inventory piling up are for. Next up is making sure that you're collecting morphs, guardians, and the Amitoi, or whatever the heck the word is. So these all 3 have essentially different progression systems, and you're gonna get your little battle buddy, the Amitoi or whatever they're called, pretty early on, right? But there is actually an advantage to collecting more. So if you go to the lithograph here, you're gonna see there's actually benefits. So you have a mount effect, total Amitoi or whatever it's called. You have the PAL synergy. And then if you click on it, it tells you which ones to get, how to acquire them, and what to do in order to do so. While there's a lot to do and unlock, consider doing this by killing 2 birds with 1 stone. So if you need to get some more experience because you're stuck on a different level, then just go to this area and start banging that out and unlocking these individual critters, because they will help you out. So speaking of these individual critters helping you out, something I didn't know because I'm a complete noob is if you go in the bottom middle of your screen here, you can see and click on this individual little guy, and you can send them on expeditions. This is going to tie into consumables, but I'm just going to show you briefly why this is so important. So you click on this icon, you come to your little house, and you can come here to this map and do these expeditions. These expeditions have their own basically requirement along with mastery and leveling, so another progression system, but it's useful because it has a lot of the really good cooking materials in here that you can pretty much only get from spamming these guys out. You can send them out 1 hour all the way, I think, up to 8, and the rewards are determined on how long they go. So you're going to look at your UI constantly and make sure you have one of these critters out. Now you can have multiple as you level and progress this system, but if you're like me playing for 20 hours and never sending one out and then you have no salt, well, don't be an idiot. Now touching on morphs, these are the same type of things here. So this is your mount essentially, and they have growth points. So just know that you should be collecting these in order to increase different bonuses as well. So more speed, getting around the map a lot easier, the better. So you can see the number that you need to collect. Some of them are super sweaty, some of them are in the store, and so on. And then Guardians. So this is going to be available to you at chapter 5, I think, completing that in level 25. You're going to get Ezekiel here, spoiler alert. And he's pretty good, actually. Now, this one is kind of like a defensive one. This Lady Knight boosting your shield, and you can hit how to acquire. And it's going to take you to the exploration. I've already done this one, which is basically going and doing a quest at around level 38. But this is going to be another thing that you're going to unlock and do as you progress. She is really good for survivability. The Green Ranger binds targets. Really, really nice if you're using a longbow that's beneficial for bind. This one here, incredible DPS. So if you have a lot of survivability and you need good DPS, this is one to unlock. And always just click on here and it will tell you where to go and what to do. The downside is you'll have to do a quest, and some of them have puzzles, but they're an alternative form of progression that you're going to be able to do and use them as ultimate abilities once every 10 minutes. And this really complements your build, your skills, your loadout, and your gear. If you're lacking just a little bit more survivability or a little bit more damage, this is the finishing touch. Don't sleep on Guardians. Okay, next thing up is understanding Fury attacks. So if I put my mouse over here, I basically get a wall of text that requires a PhD to understand what's going on. Defend against attack. Increase still damage boost after using 5 seconds defending a Fury attack while stationary. Okay, let me break this down. So defensive skills use a resource stamina. When I hit it, you can see on the right hand side, I have a little pop-up that is brown and starting to go back up, or yellow. Is it yellow or brown? Leave me a comment. Anyways, there's 2 different mechanisms to use on the block / dodge / fury attack defensive skill. One is stationary, where you click it and then it blocks for a limited amount of time. You can see as I drop below that little mini bar, that's when I can't use it again. The other way is to go in a direction and then click it, and then it acts like a dodge. Why that's relevant is each of these specific things does something different depending on what your fury attack is. So if we go and look in our individual skill, stationary fury attack is going to increase skill damage with a directional button to defend against attack. And for meters, it's going to activate charging draw for 3 seconds. Which charges at a target, dealing damage and increasing your magic melee range heavy attack for 153 for 3 seconds. Also, you're going to have 2 different ones to pick depending on your weapons. Like Block Blade here for daggers is good for regen. This is good for stun. So I'm going to stick with the stun one. How you're going to want to use this is mainly don't forget that you can dodge out of stuff, especially if you're doing a dungeon and you lack mobility like a double melee build. And then use it on stationary as you're timing it perfectly. Okay, so let's do a fury attack explanation in real life, or this isn't real life, this is a video game. So the purple circle is going to count down. You're going to try to time it 3, 2, 1 now. And I got it perfect. Now if I hit the button again, I just do this counter attack like that. And if I don't time it right, I just do a little bit too early. Oh, I got it right there. Of course I did. When I want to screw it up, I can't. It'll say defense. So I'll hit it a little bit early, and you see a defense. I can still hit the V key because I successfully did it. And I rebound the V key because it's easier for the click. And click. Now you can use it directionally as well. So instead I'm going to backpedal and then hit V as the guy comes in. Backpedal, V. Sidestep, V. So I got it there. And then I hit that V key again, or whatever your fury attack is, and it charges. So it basically gives you a gap closer. So that way you can keep your time on target different. Now, you're going to want to experiment with your fury attack, which is most appropriate. Like the crossbow is great for dodging, just keeping your distance. But some of these you're going to want to make sure that you're either stationary or that you're mobile, depending on what you need. So the purple circle, try to line it up just outside of the circle to get that perfect fury attack, and realize you can do it stationary or you can do it mobile. Okay, I'm going to do 2 mistakes in one, so this video's title is not screwed up, and that is apply your stats, upgrade your gear, and test your skills. When you're playing like me, I'm kind of tunnel visioned out, and I forget that I have stat points to apply. So make sure that you're applying your stat points, and as you're playing as a beginner, if you are, make sure you're constantly spending these leveling up gross skills. Now, you're not going to necessarily know which skills to level up and or max out. Just realize it is punishing at first, but all of these skills will eventually be maxed out. The biggest tip for you is usually your first 4 that you get and or your first beginning passives, are almost always going to be used on your individual build. The later skills may or may not be used depending on what you are using. So if it makes sense and you're always going to use a gap closer, it's a great thing to level up. Or like me, I'm going to always use Da Vinci's Courage on my greatsword because it gives you max health, helps party members, and attack speed. So work on leveling those up along with leveling your gear passively, and once it's green, make sure to hit level 6. Now, another thing is once you get some new skills, you're going to want to test it. So there's a couple different places to get training dummies, but this one in particular is pretty easy. There's people beating on them all day, every day. So if you put some new skills and don't know how it works and the tooltip looks funky, you can come here and actually practice your rotation, combat, and see if your cooldowns are up in time. So don't be afraid to experiment with these practice dummies to see where an individual skill may or may not come into place. As you can see, my rotation will get a lot tighter as I just sit here and beat on these dummies and understand what I'm supposed to do. Okay, I'm still in this little town here, the village, and you're gonna wanna cook. So cooking is another thing that I really didn't screw around with for a very long time because I didn't have any salt and I had no idea how to get it. But cooking is going to give you these buffs that you can use like every single food, and it's gonna have, you guessed it, a progression system with it. So even if you don't need necessarily the material, you are going to need to cook at the very end of the game. So you might as well start progressing it. We've already talked about the expeditions. This is where you get the salt to bang out some of these early recipes that you're probably not going to have materials for. And then you'll have this person right here, the merchant, that you can buy the basics materials for. So as you're learning the game, make sure you're cooking and you're sending those expeditions out. They go hand in hand. That way you're not going to hit max level 50, never touching it, and have to make all these new recipes. So the food is really powerful. You're also going to have some of the food based on just completing some of the quests and a lot of the materials just laying around. So if I come here, I go all hit chance, all critical hit chance, and it lasts for 30 minutes. There is a mission that will give you free food to use. It doesn't last as long, but basically gives you a similar buff. So you might as well keep it on cooldown and keep using it. You can see right here, I have the buff up. So something else you'll notice on my screen is my UI is a little bit different. I highly recommend from playing a gazillion MMOs to change your UI. The reason why is your eyes are gonna essentially look here where your skill bars are. So you don't want your health clear up here. You don't want the enemy's bar clear up here because you want your eyes looking in one central location to save time. I have my character's UI and I have the buffs and debuffs here, along with the NPC's buff and debuff on there. By hitting target another player, you can see on the right hand side, it will have their buffs, their health bar, my buffs, my health bar right there. So visually, wherever your eyes are looking, specifically at your skill bar, not necessarily your character, suck it in really tight so you can get as much information in a narrow window as possible. This will help you a lot in combat, trust me. But that wasn't an extra one because it has to be 10 in the title. Moving on, join guilds. So guilds are like ultra important and super annoying in this game, in my opinion. Even if you're a solo player, you gotta join a guild because you can get all sorts of awesome materials. You can search for different guilds as well. They're all gonna be hardcore, no life the game, play for 24 hours. Sorry, not calling anyone out or anything. But you can look for casual ones that are a little bit more just, hey, let's get together and just enjoy the game. And this is really important because these rewards that you can get after completing guild contracts, guild raids, and so on. Now, these are limited times, so you need to make sure to claim them, and when the pop-ups are available, go in there and do it. You can also donate all this stuff, and you can see donation count. The game is really centered on guilds, but the rewards that you get are ultra important. Now, in the village, you're going to get a guild house, and this is important, so we're gonna go there. The reason the guild house is important is it has materials that you'll need, as well as a guild boss mechanic, as well as dueling if you wanna be a sweat and, you know, fight your friends and prove how great you are online. Not like I would know what that's like. Anyways, you come here and there's a cooking oven. You got the sundries merchants, and you have a guild merchant. So if you go up to the guild merchant, a couple things that they sell that's really nice is this quality recovery crystal and this rare recovery crystal. So these are bigger heals actually. So even the mana regen potions for the consumables, it's worth joining a guild, even if you're not going to be super active in it, as long as they don't require that, just to get some of these consumable materials that will be better than something you can craft early on. Okay, last thing you're not doing is using trinkets early and often. It's old sweaty World of Warcraft saying. So trinkets are essentially consumables, and you need to set up your bar and or your consumables so they're easy to use. So I have the shift and 1 key because I'm using like an MMO mouse. So you're gonna have to have a potion on there. so you can self-heal regardless of your build. I'd recommend an attack or defensive remedy. These are going to be 2-minute cooldown, but 20% damage increase for 24 seconds. So you want to unload with your trinkets, which means just longer cooldown consumable items and big heavy hitter spells and or skills at the beginning of the fight. That way they come off of cooldown, you can possibly use them again, or you can burn down any enemy. Now, you also want mana regen potions. These aren't critical, but if you're using a lot of skills that cost a lot of resources, this is going to be very helpful, so put it in slot on your bar. Defensives will be useful for tanks, but not so much everybody else. So damage taken, -20. This is helpful if you're dying in the solo tower. And then also the food, which we've talked about. So I'm going to use the attack remedy, but I'm just going to have this on so my eyes are constantly looking here, and as soon as it comes off, boom, I'm going to pop that up. So when I start a fight, a combat fight, I'm going to pop my attack remedy. I'm going to pop my Da Vinci's Courage to get my attack speed for 15%, and then that gives me a huge, massive opener where I know I'm getting maximum amount of damage. And if the fight lasts long enough, I can use that attack remedy again. So pop those trinkets. And then last thing is buy these stellarites. I don't even know how to say them. They're going to give you 10% weapon damage passively, and it goes on your bar right here. And then also the World Tree Leaf. These are going to be another consumable that basically heal you slightly with your little critter. And you can buy the stellarite and this World Tree Leaf right here, as well as the recovery crystals and some other things. So make sure you're loading up on these, because 10% extra weapon damage and a little bit of drip healing here and here and a burst heal is going to make a big difference between completing that content and not. Well, gang, that's some mistakes to avoid. If you're like me, I made all of these and screwed this up. I hope this helped you. Let's get max level 50. Maybe I'll redo this video and see what stupid mistakes I make at max level, causing me pain, nightmare, and hours of grinding. If you got something out of this video, like, subscribe, and I appreciate you watching.